Okay, so we can draw a line through number 1, turnout throw in Berkshire. That's complete. The next one is potential gauge issue with another turnout in Richford. I need to double check that. That's why it has a question mark there. I'm not totally positive that that's a gauge issue, but we'll take a look and see. And then there's a couple of dead tracks we need to work on. Okay, item number 2 is a comment that one of my operators made during our last session about the turnout having tight gauge right here. Specifically this locomotive, or you can't see it, but this locomotive right here was going through the turnout and like getting pinched and stopped. I checked it with a track gauge and it looked okay. And then when I examined it a little closer, I noticed there was an awful lot of little pieces of, I don't know if it's ballast, it seemed soft. I suspect it came from a track cleaning block. Okay, I've run the engine through here once or twice, and one thing I noticed is that about a third of the time it seems to get stuck right here, and there's just enough buildup on the inside of the stock rail. But I think what it's doing is it's pushing the wheel over, and the front of the wheel is hitting the front of the guardrail. I'm going to wet this down a little bit with water and rubbing alcohol, just enough to loosen this stuff. It is rock hard. And I suspect I might have used matte medium right here, and I usually don't use matte medium to put ballast down, just because for this very reason it's almost impossible to get it up later. So after it loosened up, I ran this along this again, and I got a lot of stuff up from inside this gap between the guardrail and the stock rail. I don't know if you can see that, but man, that's a lot of little stuff that's just stuck in there. I really think this is what the problem was here, and I normally try to pay a lot more attention when I ballast turnouts, and for some reason this one I wasn't on my best game that day, I guess. But if you want to have an operating layout, you have to be that is scenic. You have to be ready to sort of constantly fight this battle between getting some scenery done, cleaning things up, and that just doesn't mean putting things back in the boxes or stuffing it under the layout. It means cleaning up just the little bits and pieces of, one, just like the old poem, for want of a nail, the battle was lost. I guess the nail fell out of the horseshoe, and the horse couldn't fight in the battle. I don't remember the whole poem, but I can tell you this much right now. Sometimes one little speck of rock or ballast can bring a model railroad to its knees if you don't catch it and stay on top of this stuff. There are ways to avoid getting the ballast on the rail or having it kind of stick to the rail when you're ballasting. And one of the best ways to do it is just to wrap the rail with a pencil or something. After you put the ballast down, it'll kind of tap the stuff off. But that only works before you glue it in place, Marty. All right, and I don't normally like to scrape the rail with metal prods like this, but this seems to be doing the job here, especially in this one spot where there's all kinds of stuff. Oh, there was just like a deposit of this stuff in here. There's another one right there. I can see it right on the inside of the rail. What I'm going to do is I'm going to let this dry a little bit, and then I can vacuum it up, and we'll test run the engine through it again. And I'll be back after it's dried. Okay, so everything dried here, and I vacuumed up all the loose little rocks and bits and whatever else was stuck in these gaps in here between the stock rail and the guardrails. And now I'm going to try to run a train and make sure that it's all running smoothly. All right, well, that's item number 2 off my list. Next step, as you can see it in the background there, is the condensery at Enosburg Falls, and I want to thank everybody who commented on the proper pronunciation of Enosburg. I've always said Ennisburg, and nobody's ever corrected me, but say it on YouTube wrong, and I guess you get all kinds of corrections. But seriously, I appreciate it. Anyway, I'm going to go over and check. That's the track serving the condensery was dead the other day. We don't know why. It has 2 feeder wires into it, so obviously one of them has an issue somewhere, or both of them. So that's the next item on my checklist.